Hey everybody, how are you? I hope that everyone's having a really great week so far, and I can't wait to talk to you a little bit more about this lesson that we're going to do this week. This week we're going to focus on looking at having some personal boundaries within our relationships, and when we're talking about those personal boundaries, we're going to really focus on the ability to tell others no. We find ourselves, I think, in a lot of different situations where we feel that if somebody asks something of us or asks us a question, and if we have to determine a yes or no answer, we typically want to say yes. Maybe because we feel that that's the right answer. Because we feel that that's what we're kind of expected to answer. So we're going to talk a little bit about that this week and really focus on, when is it okay to say no? How do we know that we should be telling somebody no in a respectful way? So first of all, let's talk about boundaries. Personal boundaries are boundaries that we have that are limits and rules that we set for ourselves within our relationships. These relationships can be of any kind. It can be a relationship with our mom or our dad, brothers or sisters, friends, co-workers, or even a significant other like a boyfriend or a girlfriend. We are in many different kinds of relationships, and every relationship that we have has boundaries, and especially for us, we have our own personal boundaries. So a person with healthy boundaries, that means anybody that has boundaries that are set in place for that healthy relationship, can say no to other people when they want to. And they are also comfortable opening themselves up to different things with intimacy and closeness within those relationships. They're okay with having a close relationship with a friend or a sibling, brother, sister, mom or dad, or boyfriend or girlfriend. So we're going to talk about some tips today of how to keep those boundaries healthy, how to work through those boundaries and know that it's okay to say no sometimes. So the first one we're going to talk about is knowing your limits. Before you become involved in a situation or if something happens, you need to know what's acceptable to you and what isn't. What are you okay with and what are you not okay with? It's best to be as specific as possible. You might be pulled into a trap of giving, then asked to be giving a little bit more, and then asked again to keep giving a little bit more and a little bit more. And this could continue over and over until it gets to a point where you've given too much. So you need to know before getting into that relationship or before getting into those situations how much you are okay with giving. What is the point to when you are ready to say no? So if a friend or a coworker asks you to help them out with money, are you okay with that? Should you be giving money to other people? You need to know what those limits are, because maybe the first time they ask you for $1, then maybe it's $2, $5, and then the next thing you know, they've already borrowed $50 or $100 from you without the intention to pay that back. So you have to know what your limits are. Where is your personal boundary to tell them no? Another tip is to make sure that you know your values. Every person's limits are different. My personal limits are different than your personal limits, and even from the person that's sitting next to you. All of these different limits are often determined by what our values are. For example, if your family values above anything, if you value family over anything else, you might have a little bit less personal boundaries when it comes to your family because you're going to do whatever you can to help out your family. You might have stricter limits on how late you might stay at work because maybe you don't want to be away from your family. So once you know what's important to you and what you value in life and in yourself, it's going to help you to know where and when you're going to say no to other people. So for instance, if you are really close to your family and you do value your family, maybe it's easier for you to tell a coworker or a friend no than it would be to tell a family member no. Another tip is to make sure that you're listening to your emotions. If you notice different feelings of discomfort or resentment, don't bury them. Don't ignore them. You need to try to understand what your feelings are telling you. Why are you feeling that discomfort, that resentment? Where are maybe these feelings of guilt or anything else that you're feeling? Where are they coming from? Why do you have them? For example, maybe you are starting to have these different feelings that you've never felt before. And maybe after you think about them, it's because it's feelings of you being taken advantage of. Something doesn't feel right. Something isn't going the way that you thought it would, or you just have one of those feelings that something just isn't right. Well, maybe the boundaries that you've had set in place, you said yes instead of saying no. And now you're starting to feel a little bit taken advantage of, that they're walking all over you or something like that. When we can say no, to stand up for what we want or what we don't want. Have some respect for others. Have some respect for yourself. Self-respect is very important. If you always give in to others, you need to ask if you are showing as much respect to yourself as what you're showing to other people. So we have our boundaries that are set up, but they might be too open to where you can always have misguided attempts to be liked by making other people happy. So maybe if your friends or your coworkers are always happy because you've always said yes, what does that really make you feel? How do you feel about that? You have to have respect for yourself just as much as you have to have respect for your friends, your family, and even your coworkers. So making sure that you're taking into account the respect you have for yourself and what you need for yourself, do still be respectful to other people. You have to make sure that your actions are not self-serving. So that means that you're not doing something just at the expense of somebody else. You should not make that decision of yes or no based on winning or taking as much as possible or maybe taking advantage of somebody else. Instead, you should be taking a look at what is considered fair to everyone. Given whatever setting you're in, whatever relationship you're in, we don't want to have to win. We're not looking to have like a winning situation where it could cost the relationship of another person. We do need to be respectful of how often we say no, respecting ourselves and those around us. But we need to do it when it's fair to everyone too. Make sure you're also being assertive. When you know it's time to set a boundary, don't be shy. When you know that you should be saying no, or that maybe whatever somebody is asking you is not acceptable, make sure you set that boundary. And don't be shy and don't be afraid to say no. You can say no in a respectful way without it being mean or rude. If you can make a compromise while you're talking to somebody, work through your no that way too. This is often a way that you can make saying no a little bit easier. You're compromising and working together with the other person in this relationship, whether that is a coworker, a friend, a family, or a significant other like a boyfriend or a girlfriend. You can work through those situations in the setting that you're in so that you're not going to be considered mean or rude when you have to tell them no, because that is where your personal boundary is set. There are still many ways to be able to show respect to all of the people that are involved. And make sure you consider the long run. What kind of consequences, lack thereof consequences, will these decisions make? Some days are tougher than others. Some days you may have to give a little bit more than you take. So you have to consider each and every day on its own too. You know what your personal boundaries are. You know what they're going to be set up as. But at the same time, you may have to just take it day by day. Because, like I said, sometimes you have to give a little bit more than what you take. Maybe that Wednesday was a really tough day. Maybe this coming Saturday there's a lot going on. It does still depend on that day-to-day basis as well. You never know what kind of situation you might be in with those different relationships. So be able to take a look. Be willing to look at those relationships in a longer sense. So even if you've been working here for 5 months, what is it going to be like if you've been working here for a year or 2 years? Thinking about what those decisions that you're making now are going to affect you in a year or in 2 years with that relationship with you here at that job. Or if it's a friend or a roommate, what would that relationship continue to be like if you made that choice? If you say this yes or this no at this point in time, how is that going to affect your long-term relationship? So, I want you to stop and think about it. Are you the one that's always the one that's taking? Are you the one that's always giving? Think about what it's like in those relationships. What kind of personal boundaries do you have? Do you have a good, strong personal boundaries that you have set up? Or do people have good boundaries set up for you to know when you've crossed that boundary for somebody else? Don't take advantage of other people. If somebody says yes, then respect their yes. And of course, if somebody says no, respect their no as well. If we are asking a lot of other people, we don't always get what we want, and neither does that person as well. Be fair, be kind, and be respectful of somebody's decision. I hope you all have a very great rest of the week. I hope you continue to talk a little bit more about these healthy boundaries, thinking about when and how and where you use that word no, and really think about how you've used it and in the context that you've used it. So, set those personal boundaries. Make sure that you are being respectful to yourself and to others, and I can't wait to talk to you about it more. Bye.